No, you're recording it?
Now you can start.
Okay, excellent. Alrighty, well, it's 6:01, so I'm going to call the Executive Committee of the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council's April meeting to order. And so I believe we have a quorum of 3 out of 4. We have me, Christian Guzman, Vic Christensen, the secretary, and Melanie Lebrecq, our treasurer.
Well, we can do roll call and find out.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you do that?
Christian Guzman.
Here.
Melanie Lebrecq.
Here.
Chris Valle. He is excused late at this point. We'll see when he comes in.
Oh, geez. What happened to your mic? It was like a weird sound. Yeah.
I don't know.
It was.
That was odd. Okay. And Vic Christensen here. So we have a quorum.
Okay, well, excellent. Let's move on now then to our number 2 item for our agenda, which will be general comment on items that aren't not explicitly on the agenda. So does anyone have any general public comment they would like to give? And I will look for hands and then recognize whoever's got their hand up. So we have, go ahead, Pat Nave.
Yeah, the ORCAM project comment period for the NOP is expiring on April the 11th. And this is a very significant project with a lot of air quality and truck traffic and issues, and we need time to take it to committee and then to the board, the neighborhood council board. And so, Chris, if you would be sure to send in a request for an extension to June the 10th, so we can do those two things, the committee meeting in April and the board meeting in May. I appreciate it very much. I'll do the legwork and getting it put together for various committees, things like that.
Well, Gwen, if it's environmental, Gwen should be handling that for sustainability.
Well, I got the email. Thank you, Pat. And I requested the extension, and Chris Cannon said that he received my request and that they're going to check to see if they have the time or resources to allow for the extension.
Care of it then. Yeah, Melanie, just FYI, I think the resolution that the neighborhood council passed only lets Chris make the
Right. But I mean, if the extension is granted, it should probably go to Gwen to have her do the letter for that, or comments or whatever, to write it up.
Oh yeah, no problem with that. That's what I expect would happen. That's certainly where I would take my thoughts on it. Thank you. Good night, all. I'm going to another meeting.
Okay, excellent. Diana Nave.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment because I found out today that for certain things that, for example, the letters that we've been sending to the port and the resolution we passed last meeting to the Board of Harbor Commissioners, that we should be doing those as community impact statements, even though there's no council file. We had assumed in the past that if there was no council file, you couldn't do that. But I was informed by the port today, they want all those the CISs. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. And Melanie went back and changed a couple of our previous ones into CISs just to resubmitted them.
Yeah,
So,
I went through and those are all filed now as CISs on the proper, commission or bonk or whatever. They're all filed. Rather than letters, they're all filed as CIS on there.
so that was just an FYI.
Very good.
Diana.
Melanie Lebrecq.
Just to let everybody know, they issued an email today that we've been assigned a new SLO that's acting. He's not official, just acting. So he'll be temporary, but it's a Paul Ulmer, and I'll send you over his information.
Okay, then.
Hopefully he'll attend our meetings.
That would be helpful. Let's look and see if there are any other hands for general public comment. I don't see any other hands, so let us move on then to item number 3, which is discussing on our items that we might add to our general board meeting agenda. And so for number A, or for item A, we have the Channel Street presentation. Does anyone want to speak about that?
Well, John Barbero would be the best one, but he has been talking with Andy Harris about giving a presentation to the board of the status, and that's what this would be.
Okay. Well, if there's no, is there any comment on that since it's on the item, it's on the agenda? Does anyone have any comments on that further?
Other than agreeing that it would be a good thing to have him give the status.
Okay. So for B, there we have our minutes. Mr. Secretary, do you have any notes on the minutes?
They were just sent to Christina today to be posted for the meeting. That's it.
Okay. Madam Treasurer, do you want to cover the next few items since they're finance related?
Yeah, we should have the MER hopefully tomorrow and be able to have it for our meeting this month, because we're having our meeting later in the, in the month. It's not the first, right away the first of the month, the way the month sets. The budget, this meeting, we're going to adjust a few things because Chris Valier said that they aren't going to do a newsletter. So we're going to move some money around, and I'm presenting that tomorrow or Wednesday at the budget and finance meeting, as well as we got a lot of NPG applications, but that will take some time for the meeting to go over everything, because we have to vote on these. The board has to accept the proposals that budget and finance does or not, or change things that they want to. But we got quite a number of applications. So.
I see Diana's hand.
Diana?
Yeah, Melanie, are you actually going to review the NPG applications and make recommendations at this meeting? Or you are?
We're going to review them at the budget and finance meeting.
Right.
And then make recommendations to the board. There's still applications right now that don't meet the criteria that would be more of a sponsorship than it would be an MPG. You understand what I'm saying? Or like we had one that used somebody else's 501c3 that isn't theirs, and they're applying using somebody else's 501c3, which you can't do. And so there's a lot of them that are going to be tossed out, unfortunately, because they just don't meet the criteria. So, but the ones that do meet the criteria, then we'll weigh in, and we're hopefully going to, the recommendation is going to be to ask for some more money for MPGs, because we're going to have an excess of money with Chris not doing the newsletter. There's going to be an excess of over almost $10,000, and we can only roll over 10. And there's going to be like between the 10 rollover and that about 20 left. So the port committee has finalized. I got the whole request in for the budget and everything for the purple air purifier monitors and the whole package. So we'll be considering that tomorrow also. And that's about $2,500 for that.
Is there any way to do like maybe a special ad hoc committee where we could get a community improvement project done before June? Do you think that'd be feasible, Melanie?
Probably not this year.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have to do a whole like different process for that. You have to do a benefit letter and send it into the city clerk. And then they have to say whether or not they approve of that benefit or not for you to do it. there's a big process. That's something we should think about if we want to do that next year. Or use the rollover money that we're rolling over this year to earmark it for something like that.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else, Madam Treasurer, or are we gonna move on to the planning?
planning is fine.
Okay. Diana, do you want to introduce any of those items or give comment on them?
Well, the only one I know of is I'm not sure what items you're referring to because I can't see there's an agenda down here. Let me look at your
The Code
agenda.
of conduct?
Yeah, the code of conduct, I
Code
want
of
to,
conduct.
yes, that I do want to comment on. You had said planning, so I was, yes. the code
Oh,
of
I'm sorry,
conduct.
that's true.
Yeah. Can you allow me to screen share? And I've got to get back to, here we go.
Diana, how about what I just shared? Is that good enough?
Yeah, but it's just easier when I can manipulate it.
Okay, hang on. Whoops. Where'd you go?
I was trying to make her a panelist.
Oh,
Great, thank you. Oh, okay, I still can't screen share, huh?
try it again. I just made you co-host.
Okay.
Melanie, you're muted for whatever you said.
I just realized that. I was telling her to go to the bottom where it says share screen.
Oh, yeah, no, I had done that. That was
But
the
you have to be a co-host or
problem. Right,
main host to be able to share, I think.
yeah. And I'm trying to get to the top of it. Okay, so subsequent to at the last board meeting, coming out of your executive committee, the board adopted some comments on the code of conduct. And I was talking afterwards with Ray, and he said, it's one thing for neighborhood councils to say, that they're opposed to what's being proposed, but what he as a commissioner really needs is for us to propose what we would like to do. And so I've come up with some recommendations, and I brought it back to executive because that was the committee that had made the other comments. So having said that, shall I go ahead and present this?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so here were the recommendations I came up with, and we may have others, but this says it's a follow-up to our previously submitted comments. And it said that the problems with the current code appear to be related to how it is or is not enforced. And so one of the things that it has 7 recommendations in it. The first one is that a paragraph be added on the current code of conduct that for people to acknowledge that the enforcement of the code of conduct is through the censor and removal policies. And you may recall in our last correspondence, we said we thought that was the appropriate place for it to be handled, not at the department level. The second part, it was amendments to the actual censure policy that appears in the bylaws that are standard in all the bylaws for all the neighborhood councils. And there were 3 recommended changes that are in here. The first one has to do with currently, in order to recommend to censure someone, there has to be 3 people who initiate it, but they are not allowed to be the majority of a quorum of any committee. So that means, for example, that our executive committee could never initiate a censure policy. So the recommendation here doesn't change the idea of it being 3, but it changes, it removes that restriction in terms of constituting the quorum of any committee. and instead says that one of the three has to be an elected officer, at least one of the three. So that was the first recommendation. And then as a part of that, let's see, it takes and says that the standing rules of each neighborhood council should provide more specificity on how any changes, any censures should be handled. The next thing it does is it reduces the amount of time. Right now, once a censure motion gets filed, there and the executive committee or the agenda setting committee of any neighborhood council puts it on the agenda, there's a 30-day lapse between that time and the time it can actually be heard. This would reduce that to 15 days so that we could respond in a little more timely manner when there was something that needed to have be censured. And the rest of it really is just making it more readable and more direct, taking out some of the language that was rather indirect. So those are the main changes. The third recommendation was that as those changes are made to the censure policy, the same changes should be made to the removal policy. The fourth one is right now in the censure policy, it is Bonk who has who is the appeal body is to Bonk. And this is a suggestion, instead of Bonk being the appeal policy body, that the appeals be heard by the grievance panel the same way that grievances are heard. And grievance panels are composed of other neighborhood council members. So it keeps it within the neighborhood council system in terms of how it's heard. Now, you know that the new policy would have put it all in one person's hands and take it out of Bonk. So, but this suggests that the Bonk turn it over to the grievance panels. The next one would add language that any appeal had to be filed within 7 days of the action by the board to put some kind of timeline. There is no timeline in the current policy. And then Bonk should provide a sample standing rule for neighborhood councils. This was a suggestion of Ray's that if some things were going to be handled in the standing rules, there was a need for a sample. And so this actually creates a sample standing rule and would indicate who it is that would be the one that would receive. If someone wants to file a censure, who does it go to? Right now, there's no place that tells you how to file a censure to whom. So this would have in your standing rules where it would be submitted to, and then who it is specifically that reviews it, whether it's the executive committee, an agenda setting committee, or some kind of group of board members. But the specificity that was removed out of the earlier section would be actually put in here. And then it would again have the requirements that to be put out, that there'd be that 15 time lag. And then it would add again specificity about who it is that's responsible for forwarding the motion to the board member and also to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and to the city attorney. And it adds forwarding it to the city attorney, which is not in the current policy at all. And then finally, it says that any motion not found to meet the requirements has to be returned to the submitters by the secretary of the president within 3 days of the meeting with an explanation of why the requirements have not been met. And so that would be something that's not in the censure policy at all right now. And then it would also add who it is that's responsible for notifying the person of the censure. So that would be a sample that could be given to neighborhood councils for incorporation as appropriate into their standing rules. And then the number 7 was that the Bonk should actually develop a separate process for dealing with acts of violence both between board members and those involving stakeholders, because they need to be acted on immediately and shouldn't be subject to the censure policy, which takes much more time to implement. After I wrote all that and sent that to you, I was looking again at the existing code of conduct and realized that there were a couple other changes that need to be made to it. The first one is that the current code doesn't cover bullying and harassment of stakeholders. It only deals with bullying and harassment of board members by one another, but not board members harassing stakeholders or members of the public. And it also, I think, unnecessarily limits in their definition of bullying and harassment to actions based on protected characteristics. So that limits what might be constitute bullying or harassment. And so there are a couple of recommendations here that would actually go up at the beginning if they got adopted, which would be to add language in several places to include members of the public at a neighborhood council meeting or neighborhood council committee meeting, the behavior of a board member towards those members of the public. It would also delete the definition that limits this to protected characteristics. So basically, those are the changes and what's being suggested. So I'm open to comments, questions, thoughts, what we should do with it. And I guess shall I go ahead and call Vic and then Melanie?
Two questions. The first one, just clarification for that last part. That is for board members' actions toward stakeholders, not the other way around.
Correct. Right now, it is about board members' actions towards other board members. And so this would just expand it to be about board members' actions towards other board members and towards stakeholders. But
Okay.
it's actions of board members, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood that right. The second one is, I think, on the opposite end at the beginning. Why the requirement to have one of the three proposers of censure be an elected officer instead of just any three on the council?
It could be either way. That was something actually that I was in discussing it with Ray. He felt that would be a more amenable to the bonk. It added a little weight by saying that one of them was an elected officer of the board.
I'm not saying, I'm not giving an opinion. I'm just asking a question.
No, it just felt like it added a little more weight to say that one of them was an elected officer.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Melanie?
Yeah, I was gonna kind of ask the same thing at the bottom as Vic did about, because stakeholders are always protected with the Brown Act. I mean, for them to be able to basically, they get to do more than any board member gets to do. But board members are held at a higher regard at the way they're supposed to act and behave. And so that's good to put it in there that they can't act lousy to stakeholders either, that there needs to be retributions for that.
Yeah.
And I agree with the executive officer being one of the three, because it does hold more weight when it comes to bonk and also to Empower LA. If you have an executive officer +2, it's gonna hold some weight versus just 3 board members.
So if you all want to put this on the agenda, you may want to do a motion tonight to that effect. And I will reorder the part at the bottom. I will fix that and put it at the top.
I move that we accept this.
Is there a
Second.
second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to forward this to the full council with the modification that Diana just said. Any further discussion? We'll look for hands. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
just-
then we'll go ahead. Yes, Vic.
just to make it official, did you vote, Christian?
No, I was abstaining. So you got 2 out of 3, so it passes.
Okay,
Okay, then. Well, we'll forward this to the full council. Are there any other items, or actually, are there any other requests from committees that we need to discuss now, or should we just agendize the usual committees and then we will receive their explicit wording and then we'll just add that before we post 72 hours in advance?
yeah, I've received no more after this agenda was posted. So if there are going to be more, they'll be part of the usual, motions that come up after last minute meetings and things like that.
And public safety will have a CIS on it. One CIS.
Okay, great. Well, do we need another formal motion or shall we just adjourn then?
That can go either way.
Okay,
I
is there a
moved.
motion to adjourn?
I think Melanie
Okay.
moved it, so I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, very good. So then we'll agendize this and we will adjourn this meeting now, and we hope to see you all at our full council meeting next week.
And Vic, I have a question for you if you'll stay on a minute.
Okay, let me go ahead and stop the recording then.
Good night, see you.